John Harte. Big John. All right, so there's a lot to cover here. We've got a book.
Yes.
We've got a book coming out.
Yep.
Tell everybody. Okay, first of all, when is it coming out?
End of summer, beginning of fall.
Okay. Now this is going to cover not just KISS.
No.
This is going to cover pretty much everybody.
Well, some other people that I work with: KISS, Iron Maiden, Billy Idol, Prince for a short shot, and my earlier days where I ran concert halls in New York and New Jersey.
It's awesome. So let me ask you guys: how many of you met Big John before? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you that have met him when you got your picture taken with him had him cover your face? Everybody, it's like, that's the most iconic picture. It's truly amazing. Now, one of the things that I want you guys to know is that we're raising money to put out the book.
Correct.
Tell them where they can do that.
Pledge Music.
Pledge Music. I have the thing right here. So it's pledgemusic.com/Big John Harte. H-A-R-T-E. That's super important because it's not H-E-A-R-T. Yeah, you guys get it. I would have done that.
On the site, not only can you pre-order the book, you can find some other things that are tied into the book. Like Ken Kelly is doing the artwork, so there'll be some roughs as he's developing the idea, and then some lithographs of the finished product, and the actual end result will be available as well.
Totally awesome. How long have you been working on this now?
Just about a year, earnestly. You know, it was batted around for a long time, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. I was working. I made all kinds of excuses. But then I wound up getting sick and having open heart surgery, and my business partner now, who's a friend of mine, came to me and said, well, you have no more excuses. Work's not a problem. You're going to do this. So here I am.
This is awesome. It's amazing. Are you super excited?
I am excited. And the way I'm approaching doing the book, it's not going to be me just laying stuff out there. I got a genuine concept about how my life progressed and why I got into business. But then I'm also going to have like little tidbits of information, like from Gene and Peter and you know, some of the other artists, just so it's not just me being boring. So they will have their slant on that particular story.
Cool.
All right, so you got assigned to a KISS member, obviously.
I did the assigning.
You did the no. I mean, when you were working for KISS, you got assigned.
I did the assigning.
Okay, you did the assigning.
I was the guy in charge.
So you spent a lot of time with Ace.
Yes, I did.
All right, so you got to tell us a crazy story because we know Ace is crazy.
Everybody has the preconceived notion that Ace was like nuts out of his mind. He wasn't. He just liked to drink a lot, and I mean a lot. And the thing that you have to know about Ace is he couldn't stand up sober, straight. He couldn't walk down the street straight. He always had listened to one side or the other, and you know, it looked like he was going to fall down. And I've seen that man when he was drinking. I mean, to beyond excess, and he would be in such contorted figures that you swear he's going to fall. And he just sort of maintained in limbo. But the biggest problem we had with Ace was he was sloppy. You know, he'd get revved up like you were in a club and they're playing, you know, something comes on the jukebox or the band's playing something he likes, he'd just want to tear down there and, you know, get closer to the action. And of course, he'd have a bottle of champagne and a glass in the other, and the champagne's going this way, the glass is going that way. I bought a lot of dresses and shirts in my time. You know, here, take this, or, you know, and that usually helped out. You know, nobody wanted to kick his ass too hard. But he made life interesting. But overall, we did things that people wouldn't imagine. We'd go bowling. Imagine that. Take the four of them bowling on a Wednesday night. And we would pull it off. Or go to the movies. You know, we would send one of the guys, Eddie maybe, would go to the theater first, buy the tickets, and you know, we'd check on the time, and then we had walkie-talkies at least. So when we got close, he'd say, yeah, everything's running, and we'd be the last ones to go in for the show. and we'd be in, sit down, nobody really knew we were there. We'd walk out the door, you know, credits are rolling, we're gone, you know, and we had the cars waiting, so it allowed them to have some type of normalcy in living on the road. Because a lot of bands don't get that, you know, they get you get locked in your room per se, you know, by your own choice, because you go out and everybody's all over you because they know who you are. With KISS, they had the option that nobody really did know who they were. So that gave them mobility, which was good. And in the big cities, though, it didn't matter, you know, because people are jaded. You go to Chicago, you go to New York, LA, and now Nashville, and now Vegas. It's commonplace for people there to see big name stars. Back when we were doing it, not so much. But in the big cities, yeah. But in the little cities, it didn't take too much brain power to put it together. You didn't know who was who, but you knew they were the band.
Yeah, that's crazy. What, in the experience that you had bodyguarding for the band, what's the most extreme thing anybody ever did to try to get close to them that you can remember, of course?
Overall, well, there's two things. People would call them bomb scares. That was very, very popular in Australia, by the way. They figured for sure they'd get to see the band. But after the first one, we didn't have to bring the band out, luckily. And from that point on, when they called it in, the police and fire department pretty much knew what was going on, so they'd bring us up a car or some kind of vehicle that I could put the band in that was closed up, like a paddy wagon. And they pulled it up right by the door, so they were out of the hotel, into that, close the doors, and we'd let them do what they needed to do, because you never know. But that was the one instances. And then the other was, we came back to the hotel after a show in LA, and at that time we would leave right after the show. And the band was in costume, so we'd get back to the hotel, we'd bring them to their rooms, we had their keys, and one of us would bring up all their personal clothing in their garment bags, and we'd swap them over. They'd get the garment bag, we'd get their costumes, send it back. When we got to the room where Paul was staying, we opened the door, and Paul would normally leave the light on, just because that's what he did. And we opened the door, and it was pitch black and quiet as church was. So we said, this is not right. Paul was standing behind us. He said, yeah. So we walked in, we walked to where it's a suite, so we walked to where the bedroom was, turned on the light, and there's some young lady naked as the day she was born, going, hello? And unfortunately, it wasn't Paul. So she was highly upset. And then, so we went down to the front desk and asked how this happened. And again, things are progression for us. You know, it was early on. You didn't think people would be so bold, perhaps. She went down and told them that she was his fiance. They bought it. They had no reason to question it because we didn't tell them anything. So from that point forward, every hotel was told nobody gets in anybody's room unless we tell you so. You know, and there's all those little things that the room lists that we would have, so we could find each other. We would pick them up after we left because people got enterprising. They had friends in the next town. Hey, so-and-so and so-and-so, you know. They didn't know exactly who the band member represented by the false name, but they knew the name, so that would get them through the switchboard. So you learn.
So you must have had to destroy much film, many cameras.
Mostly the film, not so much the cameras. People, you know, we'd catch them. I used to hate when they make me run, because, like, you know, I just get more angry, because we'd catch them. And most of the time, you know, it was the game, so they realized and they, you know, get it out. Some, you know, I remember hearing, my son's birthday is on there, or graduation, or some other nonsense. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but that's going to have to be lost. And so they'd pitch a fit, and I'd say, well, you have two ways to do this. Either I'm going to pay you for your inconvenience, and you give me the film, or I'm going to take the camera and take it out myself. And I explained to them that I'm not real mechanical. So what they get back might not be working the way it did before I took it. So it was their choice.
Did you have a bigger problem with regular fans, or I've always heard that the people that like took pictures for magazines, they kind of got it.
Well, it's twofold. The fans are what you are. You're fans. You want to see those people. Sometimes they wouldn't. The fact that they weren't in makeup made it not so much that they wanted to use it and sell it, but just that they would have it. The excitement factor. The professionals, it got around, and certain publications would pay big money for that, good, clear pictures of them without makeup. And with my job, make sure that didn't happen. And we were fairly successful. There's only a couple of shots that get out in Europe. In the States, there was one with Gene, but that's because he went to the West Coast on his own with Cher, and I wasn't there. So, there you go, folks. He doesn't take direction well either. I just figured I'd throw that in there.
Now, we're talking about some of the, obviously it was fun. You were with them for how many years?
From 75, the very end of 75 to 83. And then back again in 87.
When things really started to blow up, like get really big,
right.
Were you really like, holy crap, this is... Had you ever been with a band that was that big before?
Well, yes and no. When you're that close to it, it was an everyday momentum, so more things began to be added.
Like a progression.
And yeah, exactly. But from retrospect, or standing outside it, I would have been saying, holy shit, what do we do now? But that didn't happen. And we sort of developed things as we went along. I talk in the book about passes. When I started in the rock and roll business, there was no such thing as a backstage pass, let alone one that stuck on. The promoters started they'd get pads, at the printing shop, and there'd be the promoter's logo or the place's logo where we're playing, and there'd be a line in there to write in the artist and then the date, and that was your access in if you were a band's guest. Then that went on to being, when the technology caught up, then there was stick-ons, and then there was hard laminates. And all of that was, as the technology got better, we were able to utilize them. Because the promoters were the first one to use the stick-on passes. And then, the band people started getting hip going, wait a minute, we have 32 people backstage and we don't know one of them. Who the hell are these people? And they were all friends of the promoter. And you gotta stroke people, we understand that. We said, no, we gotta take better control of this situation. So you start making your own. Now you have total control. And the hard passes, same thing. It started with just this, then went into pictures, and I was using a Polaroid SX70. And the fellow I worked with, Rick Stewart, we were in Manhattan getting ready to start the tour, and we're buying film, and he was doing the buying. And he met a representative from Polaroid. And because we were buying so much, the rep asked him, what are you going to do with all that? So he explained it to him, and then he explained to him how the process that we used. And he was totally blown away. It's a hot laminating system. And he said, there's no way you're supposed to be able to do that. I said, well, we did, you learn. If you ran it through too fast, your face would be about this long. So, you learn to sort of pace yourself doing it. Then after that, we started using chips that would be laminated into the pass. And underneath the chip, we could use designs, we could use initials. And it was just another thing for, because people were getting enterprising as well as a new technology comes along. They are trying to get stuff like that. I mean, they're bootlegging tickets because they're making them in their house. So, you have to be prepared.
Okay, so let's talk about the book.
Yeah.
This is your approach to it. Is this going to be like day one? I'm born. This is where I'm at.
No. I didn't want to. It'll be sectionalized as far as how I got into business, what I did in the early days, working for promoters and running shows and things like that. And then as I started to work for the bands, because before I worked for KISS, I worked for the Allman Brothers for a brief period of time. And then, when KISS came along, I know you guys will hate me for this, but I'm not necessarily a fan at that point. So I was like, yeah, but it's a job. And I wanted to be on the road. So for me, it was fine. I didn't really have to like the person I worked for. As far as a fan type thing, I just wanted to be there and provide the service that I was asked to do, which is what I did. And as time went on with them, I got to like them at first as individuals, and then some of the music, because I was an Allman Brothers fan. It's definitely a different road there. But it was fine. And at that point, or in that time, if you wanted to be in the business, you could. You didn't have to have a lot of knowledge. You didn't have to have a lot of technical skills. If you were willing to put your time in and work, you'd get hired by somebody. But there was a lot more bands back then too. So there was a lot of avenues for you to pursue.
So now you were with them for such a long time that you cover, different like eras.
Yeah.
So are we going to get like Eric Carr stories? Or?
Yeah, because I realized there's not a lot of stuff out there about Eric, and Eric was a genuinely sweet person, great guy, loved being in KISS. You know, he was happy. He was a KISS fan, and when he wound up being there, I mean, every day he would just have a big smile on his face. And unfortunately, he trusted Gene way too much, because Gene would like to take the piss out of you. If he can get over on you, he will. And Eric was his, Gene was his foil. He would ask Gene, like, an example. We're in Lyon, France, sitting and having breakfast. So Eric is trying to be, bon vivant, Mr. International. So he asked Gene, how do you say butter in French? So Gene comes up with this cockamamie word, and Eric is practicing the word. The waitress comes to the table. Eric looks up, and he's like all set to jump into this. He says, can we have some fromage, please, or something like that? And she looked at him, didn't quite get it, obviously. And then, we're laughing because we know what's going on. You don't trust Gene about any of that stuff. And then finally, Eric looked at Gene like, well, help me here. And Gene's laughing, going, forget about it. But that's the way Eric was. He was that genuine and trusting. And he was like a little kid. He was always happy.
I think, I know I do. I take for granted all the things that go into putting a big show together, right? So let's put ourselves back, 1977, KISS is the biggest band in the world.
Right.
Let's say you're going to a new venue you've never been to. What's the routine? What do you got to do?
From my end, I would have to contact the promoter rep. I'd have to see what the venue is like. I'm going to get a diagram sent to me. Most of the promoters I had worked with, though, and their representatives, so they pretty much knew what I expected. But I would go then, on a day of the show, I would be there early if I could get there. Once the band was checked in the hotel, I would go to the venue. Then I'd come back, pick up the band for sound check, and then go back again with them. But that first time around, then I'd go check things out and see what they may have missed, what they didn't take into consideration. There's a lot of places when they build them, and the promoter goes in, he's not looking for the things I am. So you find loopholes or holes in the armor there. Or wait a minute, what does that door go to? Go somewhere where you don't want nobody going. If there's nobody watching that door, they're going to wind up where you don't want them. So those are the things I did. That's what I did in the beginning. When I first started working for the band, every promoter and every rep I would see in person. And if it took we did 3 shows with them, every show I was there. And I would continue to talk to them and explain to them what I wanted. And if things weren't to my liking or my satisfaction, I would explain to them what I thought they should be doing better. And then by 77, it got to the point where the promoter reps knew me. And I was to say to them when I walk in the door, the last thing you're going to hear from me is good night. Everything goes the way I want. And that's it. And they knew there was nothing more to say. And, our requirements didn't really change much security-wise. Maybe the pyrotechnics changed and things like that, but overall, from my end, it remained the same. People in the dressing room, people watching certain entryways. This has to be done 24 hours. The whole time that the production is in the building, it has to be guarded.
Now, obviously, your focus is constantly, at that point, was protecting these guys, and making sure they were taken care of. Did they ever do things that made your job harder?
Yes.
Like, did you ever want to walk up to Gene and go,
Yes. More than once. But I'll give you one example. We were in Beaumont, Texas, I forget what year. And it was after sound check, still light out. And the wardrobe people wanted to see Gene about costuming. And where'd he go? And it's like, couldn't find him. So I started walking around the building on the inside. So I get halfway around and I find this door open that leads to the outside. So I stop and I walk down that little hole. And there's Gene outside surrounded by people. And I'm wondering what the hell's going on. Now I walk out, now I see that it's the nice and Satan service crowd. And those people would scare me, and I'll explain to you my viewpoint. In 1974, we had Iranian hostages and all that type of thing, and these were people that would hurt you or kill you in the name of religion. They thought that their God's telling them, hey, it's A-okay. Same thing with born-again Christians or these people that are Knights and Savior Service believers. And so I went outside, got Gene, we sort of broke up this discussion, because Gene is the big professor, and he will tell you, now let me tell you that you're all wrong, no matter what these people are telling you. So we ended the debate, and I brought him back inside, and that's when I gave him one of those in the back of the head. Don't you do that again. You know, you want to go out and talk to him, fine, but take one of us with you. Because you never know. You don't know what's in people's brains. I mean, look at the tragedies we've had in this country in the last, 3-4 years. Back then it wasn't so prevalent, but it was always a possibility.
Can you officially say that at some point you've slapped every member in the back of the head?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
That's something he
All
owns in
ones
his.
and new ones.
That's in his collection. None of us have that.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the book, because when this comes out, it's going to be super exciting. Everybody's going to get it, right?
All
Okay.
right,
We love our KISS books. We love our KISS books. How did you get the call? Like you're working with the Allman Brothers.
Yeah, and I was running concert halls.
And then all of a sudden you get this phone call. Hey,
Well,
KISS.
ironically, the fellow who had originally hired me to work in those venues, he wound up leaving there and going to work for KISS. He went over. He applied for a job in coin management because he was friends with Richie Randall from Stars. And Richie Randall said, I think we have a position open now. Why don't you go apply for it? So he went there. I know they didn't have nothing for Stars yet because they were still in development. But they said to Rick Stewart, is the fellow's name, he said, well, we do have an opening with KISS if you're interested. So he took it. And a short time later, he called me and asked me if I was still interested in going out on the road. I said, yeah. So he said, well, I think KISS is interested in somebody, and it'll be for the European tour. I said, fine. So I interviewed him. I interviewed with them, the band, at the end of '75, and then I was called into the office to meet with a coin, and I was hired. And I originally thought it was for the European tour, which didn't happen for 3 more months from that point, from January. But they put me to work right away, and I thought I was going to be done after Europe, and I didn't get done for another 6-7 years.
Wow. What was Billy Coyne like?
Bill was very educated, worldly, loved to party. I mean, when in Australia he came to life because we couldn't go out too much. So if the promoter couldn't find us a club to go to, they'd rent a room, ballroom in a hotel, and send up a wet bar, food, and he'd be bartender. And he loved all of that kind of stuff. He loved to talk to everybody, and that was Billy Coyne.
Who was Paul the one you had to keep lease tabs on? Did he follow your rules? You always think that about Paul.
They didn't have rules, but he was smart enough to utilize what was there. Now the other guys, they just decided to go when they get an impulse. They got to go, they got to go. But yeah, he was the more structured of the bunch.
Now, obviously, we're at a KISS Expo, and that's what everybody's interested in. But you're going to talk about your time with Iron Maiden,
yeah,
your time with Prince.
Yeah.
Do you have I'm sorry about this, guys, but I got to hear a Prince story real quick because it's Prince. At what period were you with him?
Just the Love Sexy tour, '87. Beginning of '87, I did Europe and America, and then they went to Japan. We didn't go to Japan. I did venue security for him. I wasn't a personal bodyguard, which means I would just go to the venue and set things up and wait for him to arrive, and then when he'd leave, the same thing in reverse. However, with Prince, he liked to play other places after the show. So the whole time we were in Europe, my job was to meet him as he was coming off stage, and he would tell me where we were going next. And then I would go there and clean that place out and start the whole ball rolling again. His band hated him because he played forever, and they want to go home. He paid everybody, you know. He was fair about that. But they were like, come on, stop already. Because he had ungodly energy. He would just play and play and play. And he was so talented, he had any genre of music he could hit with no problem.
Cool. We only have a few more minutes, but I wanted to talk about, let everybody know once again, the book comes out.
We're hoping, well, I'll slit my wrist if it doesn't. At the end of summer, beginning of fall. And I apologize for those of you who've been waiting for it. I just never wrote a book before. I didn't realize how long certain things could take.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's got to take time, and you got to put it all in.
Yeah, well, you know, my concept was, I just sit down with somebody, you know, tell them stories, and we're good to go. Nah, not so much.
Not so much. The other thing I want to pledge music, you guys. What? Oh yeah, that's okay. I fell in a hole. pledgemusic.com/Big John Harte. Now, tell them about that. Is that one of those things where they pay a little bit of money, they get part of the book?
Well, there's different things. I need the support because I'm not a rich guy. I was not the rock star. But yeah, if you make a contribution, there's various prices, you know, to do that. You know, and for each one, you get something in return other than just a thank you. You know, you can get hand signed notes by me. You can get pictures signed and autographed to you. With the book, you can pre-order. You can pre-order a signed book. The artwork for the book will be up there in the near future, and but the offering is there. So there's going to be like the development of the artwork. There'll be roughs of that. That'll be there. Then the finished product in lithograph, and then the final product altogether. There was gold albums, but they have since we ran out of them. Unfortunately.
That I would imagine.
Unfortunately for me, but
that's right. Now you're in the hall over there.
Yes, I am.
And you have pictures and stuff for signing.
And a new T-shirt.
And a new T-shirt. That's something else I wanted to talk about. You have the biker shirts.
Yeah.
And they're going to be on the website very soon.
Yeah, by the end of the week, I think it'll be up.
Okay, and I saw the artwork on there. If you guys get the opportunity, well, you're gonna go on through, meet John, pick up a picture, get a picture done with you.
Absolutely, we do selfies.
You got to do, yeah, he does it. Every one of us as KISS fans should have the picture he has where Paul's coming out of the, everybody's seen it, right? Yeah? So where he's coming out and John is covering his face. One other thing that I wanted to ask you was, we didn't talk about Peter at all.
No, but we can.
I heard a story one time about him hanging outside a window. Like
that was me.
That was you on the gargoyle? Or something like that?
Oh no, that was both of us in the gargoyle. That was
okay,
Frankfurt.
we need to hear that story.
That was Frankfurt. We were in Germany, Frankfurt, first European tour. We were extremely homesick. We hated Europe. And because we were here in the States, we were headliners, we were getting treated royally, and we go to Europe, and production wasn't quite up to snuff there as it is here. And of course, they were playing smaller venues, and so it was one little kick in the teeth. And of course, they didn't speak any foreign languages, so they couldn't communicate the way they wanted. And the only worldly one was Paul. Gene thought he was, but it didn't work out so well. So they spent a lot of time in frustration. And this particular evening, we were watching Armed Forces Network. The promoter, thinking he was doing a great thing, was a case of Jägermeister. Case! So we're sitting in my room watching this Ali Bugner fight, I believe it was. Ali and somebody on the Armed Forces Network. And every time that Ali would punch this guy, somebody in my room would punch something in my room. Peter wound up in the armoire, punching his way out. And I mean, we're all pretty much, we're trashed. Then they trashed the room. And then Ace took off because he didn't want to get in trouble. We ran out of things in my room to destroy. So Ace went in the hallway, took a picture off the wall, put it back in and smashed it in my room. So at this point, Peter, he decides, well, let's see, I want to check things out. So he opens the window, and of course back then you were huge windows, and it's all old Gothic or European style places. So they had big ledges, and unfortunately, right outside this window, there was a ledge with gargoyles, you know, about this big. Peter said, man, I gotta go sit there with that guy. And he was out there before we could grab him. So I had to go out and get him. And, you know, so once I finally got him to come back in, he was pissed off because I brought him back in. He grabs the phone, and he throws it out the window. He heaved it pretty good because it landed in front of the police station across the street. So the next morning there was hell to pay, let me tell you. And we all paid for that.
That's awesome. And let me, to close it out, let's take a couple questions. Anybody have any questions for John? Anybody? We got one over here.
Yes, sir.
We got a microphone.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much.
I have to get him over here.
Can you talk about Eddie Belandis?
Yeah, sure.
'Cause he was here, like I think it's like the year before he passed.
Okay. Was it here or I thought it was Chicago?
No, he was here.
It was here?
He was here, but he
Oh,
passed
yeah, no,
into
it's
Chicago.
Yeah, Eddie, me and Eddie got along great. He was a fun guy. He reminded my wife of the Campbell Soup kids, because he always had big rosy cheeks. And he was from Chicago area. I first met Eddie when he was working for the band Sha-Na-Na. And we struck up a friendship then, and then when I was working for KISS, he wound up coming around and Rick Stewart had gotten his name. And talked to him about working for the band, and he started working for us, and we got along great. Eddie was one of those people that loved to make people laugh, and he had a sort of slant on things. He's Slavic or Russian by nature, and so he would make fun of like the Russian thing. Nastrovia na Tichtabumfa, you know, and that was Eddie. You know, of course, just as we're tippling a few drinks. But he was fun. Defended the band verbally to the day he died. He wouldn't say nothing about the band that he thought was wrong, that that would be slanderous or harmful in any way. Because he talked to me about that by phone, and I said, yeah, I said, you can't lie, but like a lot of people, like I said when everybody laughed about Ace, Ace has a bad rap about in his drinking days. But he wasn't so bad. He just liked to drink too much. He was like Arthur. Everybody remember the movie Arthur? That's Ace.
That's awesome. Okay, my last question is going to be, you were on the cruise this past year.
Yeah, it was great. You guys are like absolutely insane. But I mean, I was really humbled by the way I was treated and the way my wife was treated. I mean, everybody was really so nice, and I was blown away by all that. It's really, from my point of view, what I did for the band, I never thought that I would be sitting here talking about it, if that explains it to you. I was hired to do a job, I did it, I think I did it fairly well, and I never put myself outside of that. That's just what I did. You guys got me in a place where I never thought I'd be, and I appreciate that, and thank you.
Everybody, don't forget, John is in the room where there's two rooms. He's in the smaller
I'm
room.
in the smaller room over there. Come by and visit. Ain't gonna buy none.
Yeah,
Just come by.
say hello, everybody. Big John Harte.
Thank you again. Thank you very much.